Hello. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about Gurdjieff and maybe a little bit about U.G.Krishnamurti and also the Emerald Tablets. I found a particular section from Gurdjieff that I always thought was very important. It is this: the totality of their artificial perceptions gradually became isolated in their common presence and acquired its own independent functioning, related with the functioning of their planetary body only as much as is necessary for its automatic manifestations. And it is this totality of artificial perceptions which, owing to their naivety, they now regard as their real consciousness. Only as much as is necessary for the automatic manifestation of the planetary body. That is the state of the operating consciousness that human beings now find themselves in. It is only slenderly connected to the reality of the physical world, their physical body. Slightly further back it says, "From the first moment of the arising of their offspring, in order to make them correspond to these abnormal conditions around them, they intentionally try by every available means to fix in their logic Nestorian localizations as many impressions as possible derived exclusively from the artificial perceptions due to the results of their abnormal existence and their maleficent action towards their offspring they call education." This means parents try to make you like them, to see or to unsee reality. They feel it's their urgent duty to do this, and they will not stop until you're broken just like them, until you see as little as them, and that your perception is artificial, conditioned. I was thinking about, sometimes you hear people talk about the material world. You know, they say God is not real, who cares about spirituality, all that there is here right now, right? Just the material world. But who experiences the material world? Who sees anything? That's what U.G.Krishnamurti says. He says, "You see nothing. You're just a barking dog." He talks about wiping away the entire history of humanity inside of you. But which history? Which history? You see, if people are living in an artificial perception, which is only very slenderly connected to their physical body, to the physical world, to the real world, they live in a dream. They drift through. They drift through. And if that is the history of humanity, it has no value. The secret, you see, the big secret is that it is possible to be alive. It is possible to have eyes to see and ears to hear. It is possible. And that is the narrow gate. Yes, some people argue about religion, some people argue about the material world, but who has eyes to see? One day somebody goes to the doctor, and the doctor says there's something wrong with your pancreas. And the man says, pancreas? What is that? I have a pancreas? What do people know about themselves? Does anybody know what's actually occurring in their body? When I was trained in yoga and we did all those things, salt water cleansing of the stomach, of the alimentary canal, the gallbladder, everything. I did the whole course. It was very expensive. I learned a lot about myself. I learned how to go to the toilet. So if somebody talks about the material world, what they really mean is being like everybody else. Being like everybody else, because your entire education is really about being like everybody else. Whatever that is. Whatever that is. I mean, who even knows? So when U.G. says that he would like to wipe away the entire history of humanity, he's talking about wiping away nothing. A dream. And that's what it says in the Upanishads as well, that life is just a dream. It is just a soap bubble, Osho used to say. But the secret is, it is possible to have eyes to see. It is. But you would have to repair yourself, and you would have to wake up. You would have to wake up in a dreaming world. With U.G., students would come and see him in his flat in Bombay or in other places. He would chat to them for a while, and eventually he would say to them, look, what is it that you want? Why did you come and see me? What is your question? And that would floor the students. That would floor them. What is your question? He said the apparatus that was functioning in them could yield no results. It wasn't the right apparatus with which to engage in reality. He was talking about the operating personality, or the false consciousness. And that's typical for India. People get on a plane and they get off a plane and they walk into one of these places and meet some teacher. Why are they there? I'm sure many of them would find it very hard to answer that question. Desperation, seeking, dissatisfaction, crisis, disorientation. They can't quite explain it. Often for me it has felt like my center, my core, walks me around, and upstairs there is a disco party going on, and the core has to sort of deal with it. It has to take me to the doctor, it has to take me to the therapist, it has to take me to the guru. All the while, that thing upstairs just is mayhem. It's quite difficult to explain the situation of a fallen man, to be split in two. It's not easy to represent. Now the Buddhists, see, this is interesting. The Buddhists say that what is the point of wanting anything? Because everything is impermanent. A house collapses into the earth. A body gets old, sick and dies. So what is the point? It's all impermanent, right? Does that actually make sense? Well, The real problem is that you don't know what you want. And therefore, how can you be oriented correctly in life? How can you express yourself? This mortal life could be beautiful as long as you wear yourself, as long as you act from the soul, as long as you are nourished by your contact. And then who is to say that it would be mortal? Perhaps this entire fallen world has become mortalized by its falling away. And that disease is simply the result of a misperception. Now, the Christians say that people had no faith in God. They became ashamed of themselves. That's their way of expressing it. When I was talking about Buddhism and their endless moaning about impermanence, what I mean is that even spiritual ideologies are infected by this confusion of the false consciousness. Things can be pretty confusing. My teacher, who was trained in Zen for many years, he had a very beautiful way of simply cutting through. Cutting through. It may be confusing, but discard anything that is of low consequence and stay in the center of that which has high consequence. This is from Thoth in the Emerald Tablets. The Emerald Tablets presents a slightly fantastical story, but the more I hear it, the more I feel that it could be a genuine transmission. Thoth says, "Shake off thy bondage, O children, and walk in the light of the glorious day. Never turn thy thoughts to the darkness, and surely ye shall be one with the light. Man is only what he believeth, a brother of darkness or a child of the light. Come thou into the light, my children. Walk in the pathway that lead to the sun. Hark ye now, and list to the wisdom. Seek thee and find the key I have given, and ever shalt thou be a child of the light." This is from the Father on the question of having a soul or not. "How shall I put it?" he answered. "In that soul which a man supposedly has, as people believe, and of which they say that it exists independently after death and transmigrates, I do not believe. And yet in the course of a man's life, something does form itself in him. This is for me beyond all doubt. As I explain it to myself, a man is born with a certain property, and thanks to this property in the course of his life,